Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to episode 122 of In a Good Way podcast. I'm going to talk a little bit about the super blue moon or super blue full moon. Um, you know, I wanted to talk about it because, one of the things I think people always talk about or ask is about how do I enhance my, abilities or things like that, right? Like everyone wants to know what's a way to do it. And so, the super moon, I believe super blue moon was very significant to something that happened to me. So I think it might relate to a lot of other people. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, right? So I was thinking of an experience, and lately I could feel like during this time, like me really getting tapped in. Like yesterday before I went to sleep, not just before I went to sleep, but during the day, it almost sounded like I was hearing things like, whether it's spirits or something. I was hearing conversations, right? And I was like, what in the world is going on? So it reminded me of something that actually happened. I think it was, pre-pandemic. Um, I remember a friend of mine was going through something, and they invited me, hey, you want to go? They wanted to have a beer or something, so I went with them to this. It was a restaurant, but on the side it had a bar. So we went into the bar place, and they're like, oh, just go with me. They're like, I know you don't drink, but go with me, and I'll treat you to something to eat or something, right? Well, I don't know. The surge thing just went through. I think it's just my air though. So I saw my light through the flicker. So, anyways, we went to this place and whatever, we're there and they're just like boom, 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 because they're going through stuff. So I was like, fine, I was being a good friend, just listening to them going through what they were going through, because it was kind of, I guess, like a heavy situation. So, anyways, while we're sitting there, all of a sudden, it's like I could hear everyone's thoughts in that place, right? All at once. So just picture like hearing like, but it sounds like it's in here, right? Uh, and all of a sudden, it's like if I could hear maybe, I don't know, 30, I think there were like 30 people in there, right? So I could hear everyone's voice in my head. And I was like, what? I froze, I was like a deer in the headlights. I get my phone and he's just talking, across from me, telling us like, his problems. And I'm like texting, I text this friend, and they live a few states away. I think that's what I was, my, what is it called, the Freudian slip or something, because they do live in Texas. So I was like, I Texas or something like that. So I text my friend in Texas. I was like, hey, could you pray for me? I don't know what's going on. Then I text like another friend that's like in Colorado. I was like, hey, I don't know can you pray for me? I don't know what's going on. And my first friend was like, "Oh, I think they just asked me like, oh, okay, okay, I'll pray for you." And then the other one, they were like, "Oh, hold on." And then right away they sent me this thing that it was like a super moon, and there was this planetary alignment. So somehow that thing. Oh, and then it said like whoever's post they sent me, it was like, "Oh, if you're, an empath, if you're sensitive, if you're this and that, stay away from people." Stay home, go to nature, do something. And here I am in a bar where everyone's probably thinking about all the stuff they're going through or whatever, right? And I've just like picked up on it, and it was too much, right? So I say all that to say, see, like on that day there was like, whether it was an activation or something going on, and that opened me up, boom. But since I couldn't handle it at that moment, I didn't want it, right? Like now I'm more equipped to deal with these things, right? I've often mentioned about one time when I started seeing all these realities and I was in the shower, I dropped to my face. I was like, please take it away, take it away, take it away. It was too much. I felt like, oh, I'm gonna have to end up, going to a mental institution because it was just, too much. So the same with that time, right? It was like, and then my friend noticed me and he's like, "Oh, you wanna go?" I was like, I couldn't even talk. I was just like nodding, like, "Yeah, let's get the hell out of here." And once we left that place, I think I started calming down, right? something about just that being in that environment. Maybe with everybody drinking. So obviously the drink, the spirits, or whether they were inviting more spirits in, or everybody's just kind of uh a little looser because of the alcohol, and I picked up on all that, right? It was too heavy. So all that to say that, right? Like when these kind of events happen, I don't know if there's any kind of planetary alignment. I just know it is in the sign of Aquarius, which, obviously we're in the time of Aquarius where it's more of an I know, right? Like they said, the age of Pisces was about, well, I don't know. I always think of the two fish swimming in opposite directions. That's kind of how I think of it, right? They say there was the most, it's been or in the history that we know, right, where there was the most time of war, right? There was always like an ongoing war for these last, whatever, 2,000 years or something, or however long we've been in the age of Pisces. I don't even know. So I won't I don't want to misinform, right? But whatever amount of time we've been in the age of Pisces, it was a time of conflict, a lot of different things happening, to where the Aquarian age is more about like knowing, right? Knowing the truth, right? Standing in the truth, right? Of things, right? And so it was funny because even this morning, it's funny. I looked at the clock and I saw 143, which is very significant. It's been appearing I think it appeared earlier to me too. I was watching something and it said 143, which it's always like a way the spirit world communicates with me. Not to sound all corny, but it's their way of telling me, like, you know, for those that knew about 143 back in the days with pagers, it was like how you told someone you love them, right? 143 was like, I love you, right? So I guess that's their way of telling me that. So thank you. It's not corny. Thank you. I appreciate it for us. So, anyways, what do you call it? Yeah. So, see, the spirit world's over here making me blush and stuff, right? Because I know that they mean it, right? So, anyways, um, so that happened, right? So just to say that, right? Like, it's a time of that. And this morning it was interesting because I literally pictured I was on this hike, and as I'm hiking, I saw like in my third eye, like like a human. I even pictured like myself, right? Like throwing off almost like that, like a snake skin, just taking off the whole skin and stepping into a new you, right? I literally saw this. And as I climbed to the top, very top of that hill, boom, there's this long goal. And it wasn't just on the ground, it was like so I could see it, right? It was like I know the snake didn't climb up. Maybe, who knows? It was just weird that it was up. I'll put a video of it right here. Check it out. As I was hiking up this hill, I was literally thinking of making a video where I talk about shedding your old skin, especially for this super, super full blue moon, right? Shed that old skin. That's crazy, right? But it was like up, you know, uh, on like the brush and the snake skin, right? And it was a pretty big one. It was a nice size one, maybe, I don't know, 2.5 feet or something, of the snake skin. So like, wow, I literally just pictured that, so my psychic, like the intuition has been dead on, you know what I mean? And see, even as I'm saying that, I could feel it. It was crazy. I even had this crazy premonition. I like on the Lions Gate, right? I had this dream, and as weird as it was, I literally just saw that on a TV show yesterday. And it's kind of tied into the snake thing too. So it was really weird. That no matter what, like when I have these premonitions and things, they happen. And that's kind of what I'm gonna segue into. So just to say that, right? Like if you do have anything happen to you, you're gonna be able to make that choice to suppress it, like I did in the past when you can't handle it. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're not ready for it, you're not ready for it. Because that it can be very, I often feel bad for anybody that goes through these things, you know? Like people run to the give me the pills, do this and that, like that kind of stuff, right? I've never had to do that because that maybe I always at least had someone I could text and imagine that I text the right person that was like, oh, boom, and they send me the thing, oh, well, it's a super moon, planetary alignment, so it was affecting me, right? So just that, right? If you do go through any kind of big transformation, right? Obviously, with me running into the snake skin, and then I had been running into bats. Right, yesterday I ran into a bat again, just one, but it was a different, like, almost like if I had finished the shadow work. Right, it was just like there as like a companion. Right, really beautiful thing. Right, when and it was a little more daylight. It wasn't even dark. It was like the sun was still like it had just set, so it was still bright enough to where I could see the bat clearly. And it comes, it's flying along me as I'm on my bike, so it was pretty cool. Um, so yeah, right, like the transformation right now that's happening. If you are going through it, embrace it. I mean, if it's not too heavy, you can embrace it, and that's fine, right? So one of the things I had to look at. So now this is something else, right? So I'm not gonna focus so much. I just wanted to talk about the super moon. Like, if that happens and you're ready to embrace it, then this is one of those times where, oh, how do you amplify your gifts or abilities, this and that. This will be a time if it happens. If they feel you're ready for it, you're gonna get it. Whether you don't even have to do nothing. Just like me, I didn't have to do nothing. It came to me. Boom. It was overwhelming. Maybe with that time too when I was in the shower and I started seeing all these realities. um the same. Maybe it was some kind of super moon, blood moon, alignment, whatever, and I wasn't aware of it, right? That's why astrology is a beautiful thing, right? If you do pay attention to astrology, then you'll know, oh, today was this. That's why I was so sensitive. And it won't make you feel like you need to run to the doctor, to get help, right? Because you're aware that, okay, there was a chance, depending obviously what, you know, sometimes it does matter, right? Like, it does matter, not sometimes. Like, usually, I guess sometimes it just affects different, depending on, your astrological chart or something. It might affect you a little stronger than someone else, right? So whatever happened in these occasions, I was, I guess, on point to have that response, right? So anyways, so just that, right? So just like buyer beware, but like be cautious, right? Like, if that happens, then you can embrace it. If you're not ready, don't worry about it. You'll get it on the next one, right? So anyways, I just got these weird little chills, right, when I said that. So anyways, um going out to the next thing. So it was funny, right? Like, um I got to interact with a few people over the course of these last couple weeks, right? I don't know if it was since after this Lionsgate thing or just during the course of the last few weeks, right? And I was able to read for a couple people, and it was not with cards or nothing, just just from like the psychic thing, right? And so they got a message for me too, right? And different people saw the same message for me, right? And they said, well, one of them couldn't really understand that. They were like, I don't know, it's almost like it's your face, but it's almost like a mask and this and that. And the other person, without knowing this person, they had a similar message, right? They were like, something about a mask. And I was like, right away, it clicked. Boom. Yeah, of course. I get it. Cause I do, right? Like I've said many times, right? I'm getting more comfortable expressing my spiritual walk. And I thought about it. I had a few flashbacks, right? That's a funny thing during this time. So I don't know if that's also tied into this, super moon, or with the whole Lionsgate and the super moon and not taking things with you. I started having flashbacks of things, right? Things that maybe they wouldn't seem that serious to someone, but they were like little traumas, right? That started putting me on this course, right? Um, for example, right? Like before, like, I had been visited by or visited with God, right? Whether I would leave my body and go with God, um, directly, right? I know a lot of people, like, they'll say Jesus, but I never interacted with Jesus, right? I always went straight to God because I followed the instructions, right? Like Jesus in the book, he talks about, oh, he's like, don't pray to me, pray to God. So I would pray to God, right? And so I would deal directly with God. Like, it's like being at a job and there's always you know, what is it called? Like, man, shoot, it's like right there. Chain of command. There's always a chain of command, right? And so it's like that, like working at a job, and it's like, the CEO, and there's like the manager. Everybody has to deal with the manager, but for some reason you're good with the CEO, and the CEO is like, hey, just come to me directly, like you're good. So for whatever reason, right, I made that connection with the CEO. You know what I mean? Um, so that's how I function, right? People didn't like to hear that, right? So that started dimming my light, right? That started dimming my light. Who am I to deal with directly with God? If everybody else prays to someone else in the middle, who am I to deal with God? But that was the instruction, so I did it. So see, I've been told like to be nice. So if I talk really how I am, I gotta wear a mask because I'll be very like blunt, and people can't handle that, right? And I was even set up that way with being a Gemini, right? We have the sword, right? Like we'll lash out. Even being connected to the red tail hawk, right? The red tail hawk, it warns like, hey, you gotta remember, like as a hawk, like the red tail hawk, like you embody that, you'll just tear into people, and you gotta remember to ease back, right? So that's a thing, right? It's about truth, right? The truth seems very. Why should people be offended by truth? But that's the illusion we live in. People don't like to hear the truth. And especially if you just say it really blunt, it's like they want it to be on a bed of rose petals, and they want you to be very soft with it, and oh, I heard, you know what I mean? I heard your feelings and this and that, right? And not to say that I don't get my feelings hurt. Like me, I'm more like respect, right? Because that's how I grew up, where literally we learned a certain kind of respect, and it's more like it's hard to deal with, like knowing that sometimes, like, it's just that it's I grew up in a different culture where, yeah, if you didn't respect people, you know they they could put hands on you, right? Or like that, like if someone didn't show me respect, I could put hands on them. Now everything changed to where, so then your mind kind of goes like, damn, how do I deal with this, right? So that's where it's taking me longer than probably other people to deal with, like to learn how to deal with that kind of stuff, right? So so I don't know if that made sense, but anyways, I digress, right? So that's the thing is like, right, like even that, right? So I'm just talking about, now I'm gonna just go into all my, because people I've gotten emails about this, I've gotten messages about this kind of stuff. So why do I hold back, right? Why that mask? And like I said, right, people and people could say, oh, who cares about what people think? But you do. Like whenever I've told someone the truth, like they stop talking, man. It was someone, like different people that I actually liked. People were cool, right? Like, oh damn, that person's cool. But then boom, you say something, like let's say you tell them about accountability, right? Like even when when I started the podcast, and someone that kept canceling on me, like after the sixth time, like, hey, you wasted my time. Like, hey, like I lose out on work for this, right? Like I'm self-employed, so you made me lose a whole day because stuff like that, and then boom, that's it, that person never talked to me again or stuff like that. That's why. So imagine destroying someone else's beliefs, right? Like, well, my pastor's been telling me God doesn't talk to people, why would he talk to you, right? So boom, I had to, so many things over. I remember once, right, I was recording this song, and it was a prophetic song. It was about one of these visions when God took me and they showed me. See, I didn't know then. I didn't know I actually was gonna be able to see all alternate realities, and I didn't know I had that kind of access right back then. This was like the beginning, but I was like, okay, clearly I'm supposed to share this, right? I'm supposed to warn people that it's not all like, oh, it's guaranteed. Like, no, you're just gonna get to, like, even this world, this chaotic world, like maybe it was part of that, right? Because we keep returning. So maybe they were showing me like, yeah, we don't just get to sail off into sunset because we're gonna come back. Even it's almost like we gotta get it right at some point, right? Or we're gonna just destroy everything. So that's how it was, right? It was even like as above, so below kind of thing. It was like there was some kind of alternate reality where heaven was even destroyed, right? So that's how I started the song. I was recording this song with this Christian girl, and she was singing the song really cool. I mean, she was a great person, got along with her great. And here we are in the studio, and I'm in the booth, and I'm saying this thing about this prophecy. I was like, even that was like me coming out of my comfort zone, me just saying, boom, being like a mouthpiece for the spirit world, for the higher ups, right? For God, the creator source, you know, himself, itself, however, you want to refer. And this before the internet really, boom, everybody, everybody's, has whatever to say, right? This is me just getting it from source, right? This message that I'm supposed to deliver, like, like a warning, right? Like a warning to change our ways, right? To start respecting the earth more, this and that. And so here I am in the booth about to record this song, and this Christian, and she was like short, so she literally, like, this had never happened, right? Like never. She literally walks into the booth and she looks up at me and she's like, "Why did you say that? That's not in the Bible. That's not what it says in the Bible." And I was just like, and it, like, I didn't want to argue. And I remember in that moment, I literally changed what I said just because I knew this girl was such a, like, in that, it was like a new, I don't know how long she had been a Christian, but she was in that stage where they're like hardcore, right? Like, to me, I'm from the place where it started, like, where they would be a lot of like gangbangers turned to Christians, and then they would be on the street. Like, it looked like they were ready to break your car window, like, Jesus Christ, like that, right? Like, they would be very, so she kind of had that thing about her, right? She was very like, oh, and so she walks in the booth and she's like, wait, what'd you see that? That's not what it says in the Bible. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even want to argue, to where I just changed it in my song. And I remember that tore me inside. I felt like a loser. Like, I felt like, what the hell? Like I just didn't want to argue, right? But it was like, even in the Bible, right? Even back then, right? So I see nothing misogynistic about it or whatever, because I've experienced it so many times. But it said, like, you know, it says, like, it's better to live on a rooftop than with a contentious woman, right? And I've experienced this. So I know whoever wrote that in the Bible, and the women will say that. Women have agreed with that statement, like, time and time again. So hopefully, whoever hears this, like I said, right? See, people don't like truth. If you say truth, then someone's gonna take it this way or that way. But about that. So even at that moment, it was like I even had to push myself just to finish the song, because it was like, here I am delivering this message. I hear this person without understanding, already challenged because of this book that they follow, that's indoctrinated people for so long, stands in front of me like, why'd you say that? Like, see, now everybody, okay, now the internet, now we have thousands of YouTube channels. Now everybody's more aware that everything's not just like, oh, this is the Bible and this is it and that's it and nothing else exists, nothing else is real. But at that moment, right? Like, so that was a big hit for me. That thing, it seems insignificant maybe, but it affected me so much. I remember that feeling of like that, like, damn, why didn't I stand my ground? I should have just been like, hey, like, well, you don't, maybe it was that because she was helping with the song. She sang this great chorus, right? I can't sing like that, so she helped me with the chorus of the song. And maybe it was just like, I don't want her to be like, oh, I don't want to be on this song then or something. So I was just like, fine, for the sake of just finishing the song, I was just like, I'll just shut up. Whatever, is not that big of a deal. But it hurt my spirit after. That was me back in not standing my truth, right? So that affected me that much, right? So that was one hit, right? So I had been hit before. That was another hit with that. So time and time again, right? I've been in these situations where not too long ago, someone in like a spirit, and it wasn't just one person. I've had these experiences where the arguing just doesn't matter, right? I remember I was talking with someone and they were just like, they were going like, they were just very adamant about something. And literally mid conversation, it was like if I just left my body, and I'm just seeing this, like, think of it like that, like a hawk just peering down and watching the arguing. Like, the conversation was so like irritating to my spirit that I had to just leave and be like, all right, just let, like, watching, like, I just blurred out. And I literally told them that. I was like, right now, the whole time you were just ranting, it was like I just stepped out of my body and I just let you finish. It was like you just had to finish saying what you had to finish, your whole little 10, 20-minute rant, however long it was. And I had to step out and then come back in. And then they started laughing about it, but I wasn't even playing. It really happened. Because that's the thing, is like, so when people ask me why I gotta wear a mask, because people don't want to listen. That's the thing. And I don't care. It's not that serious to me. I already know, right? I see Like I'm shown things like even that, right? Let me say this other thing, right? And then I'll end it because I don't want to keep like going on and on about why the reason, right? I think I've already made, I could have given one example. You know, it's like they say, a word to the wise. With one word, you should already know. So even that frustrates me sometimes, right? If I say one little thing, that should already be enough, right? But a lot of people don't get it. So sometimes it's a headache to have to be explaining like why I learned to style. See, even that I learned to tell stories because people didn't understand, right? Like sometimes you have to, right? And it's beautiful. I love that part of human nature, right? That we learn to tell stories. That's why fables exist. That's why this. Even when the Bible, I mean, things in the Bible I take more literally because they happen to me. You know, people try to explain. It's like science. It doesn't matter to me because I don't have that. No, you have to explain it to me. I have to get it. I'm cool with not, like, I'm cool with experiencing and knowing I experienced it, so I know it exists. That's cool with me, right? Like when beings visited me and they showed me evidence, like that's cool. Like, what else do I need to know? But other people, I think, might go into the, well, no, maybe I was smoking something or something, or I bumped my head on the wall or something. They need to do that. I don't. I'm okay with knowing it happened. So now it happened. Like there's no doubt that it happened. I know it happened. I get it. I see proof. I see confirmations. They usually give me confirmations, so I'm good with that, right? So let me tell you this, right? As an example, it's even like, why don't I share things? Even when I remember I was working at UPS and I became a supervisor, even something as simple as that. I became a supervisor and everyone started turning on you. They're like, oh, you went to the dark side. I was like, what? Just from wanting to, from being able to take a responsibility, right? You take on that responsibility that no, they didn't want to take, and you step into that leadership role. And then people say that you went to the dark side because you want, you want make more money. But yeah, obviously there's more responsibility, bigger headache. You got to deal with people like that, right? That oh no, you're the bad guy now. Not just like, oh, okay, oh man, congratulations, good job, boom, boom, boom. You're trying to, move up instead of just being stuck, right? Like you decided that, hey, like, and rather than complain, oh, I'm tired of this job or this and that, you know what? Okay, well then let me start moving up. Let's see, maybe I can make things better. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could bring some change, right? So I've been in these leadership roles, right? That's why I don't crave it. I don't yearn to be, oh, here, let me be, even in the military, the same, right? Like I didn't even ask. And I remember the first time even when they made me a squad leader, right? And right away there was this guy that was like, he didn't listen to nobody, right? And he was like, oh, what you think now? Da, 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 da. And I had to put hands on him because at least in the military you could put hands on people, right? Like, I don't give a bloop. If you don't listen to me, I'm gonna beat the living crap. Like that kind of thing, right? So it was cool. See, people always wanna like it's their head, right? They project that on you. They project things on you. And this is no different. The spiritual walk is no different at all, right? People project things on you. If you have knowledge of something, they want to project their ideas on you, right? So that's why I wear these masks. It's more of a mask like of yeah, protection for myself, really. It's protection because maybe other people don't get it, right? Other people don't have it that difficult, right? They don't have to go through that, you know? Maybe, it's just, I don't know, really. I really don't know. You know what I mean? I've often thought because, even that, right? Like, I have a youthful energy. I have, I love to enjoy life. So if you're like, just because I don't sit like I have a, whatever, for lack of a better term, like a stick up my bloop, like, you know, for those that aren't familiar with that saying, that's more like when you're just like a freaking robot or something, right? Because I don't know if that nowadays offends anybody or whatever, but that's an old saying, right? But anyways, it's like, yeah, if you don't act like a freaking robot, uh, then yeah, I don't know. People think like the taking kindness for weakness kind of thing, right? Stuff like that. Even years ago, when I was still going to like the ceremonies a lot, the spirit world started telling me that. Like they were like, "Oh, you're the elder, right?" Like as much because I did, right? I was as aware of things as a lot of the elders that I would speak to. They showed me respect, like the elders did. When I could talk to an 80-year-old elder and they showed me that respect. Sometimes, yeah, there were some people that weren't aware, so they didn't, whatever. It is what it is. But I could talk to elders and they showed me that respect because they knew. You know what I mean? They knew. They saw, right? So the spirit world, even since then, was like, oh, you're the, they were putting that in my head, right? Um, years ago. And I just didn't, like when you've already experienced that responsibility, you don't want, because you already know what it entails. It's like, you know, like, yeah. So that's what. So I just, all that long thing just to say about the mask, right? Clearly, me talking about it is a step in the direction of letting a little bit of that mask fall off, right? Just like shedding the old skin with the snake. I'm saying it, I'm sharing this in case it relates to anybody else, right? Everybody has their own challenge. That's been a thing for me. I get it why, right? I hold back so much. Even when I was in high school, you know, they made me a part of this I was part of this party crew that I didn't even want to, but it was almost like, no, no, you're in. And then they wanted to make me one of the main heads from this party crew, right? Which means like one of the leaders from this party crew. And I didn't want the responsibility. I was like, it didn't interest me to be like, some people need that, right? For their ego, for whatever. Like, oh no, I'm one of the leaders. I'm da, da, da. I didn't want the responsibility, right? So even since then, I've been put into a lot of leadership roles. Even imagine that. Even in high school, being in charge of like, I don't know what. It was probably like 20 to 30 of us. I mean, it kept growing, right? But I remember being put into that position in high school to be like that, right? So I was always getting thrown these things, right? Um, very few times did I say, okay, I'll do it, right? And it was because at that point, I knew I could do a good job, right? Or I saw another supervisor, and rather than complain about it and be like, "Oh, this supervisor is no good," I was like, "Wow, let me just take this person's job and show that I could do it better or the way it should be done, right? Stuff like that." So on that note, I think that's really all I had to talk about. What else has been? Yeah, the super moon. I think I made this way longer than I wanted to. I felt like called to talk about the mass thing. Excuse me, I had a burp, bro. But that's part of my mass thing, right? Um, you know, yeah, maybe it's calling to me for me to be more. It was interesting that people saw that. That's why I was like, okay, why were they allowed to see that, right? Like, why did the spirit world let them see that? So clearly, it was like I took it as a message for me, right? Like the spirit world's telling me, like, you know, like maybe it's time to address those things, right? Address why did you start wearing the mask to begin with, right? And it's not so much because clearly I just hold back, right? Oh, so that's another thing, right? Like holding back mid thought because of things like that, right? Like all those things. Um, yeah. When you experience them, like yeah, it's just that I have nothing to I don't have nothing to argue about, right? Like even that, right? There was like the last like I dealt with somebody like sometime last year, right? And I cut, someone that I cut off like that because I said, this person, I was talking to them very briefly and they stole my peace. And it was that quick. It was like, you know what? You stole my peace. And my promise to myself is I will never deal with anyone that steals my peace, not just in a relationship kind of way, but even, let's say business, man or woman. So that doesn't even matter, right? If I have a friend that steals my peace, I don't need to deal with them. Why am I going to deal with them? I've had people that try to argue with me and I'm like, dude, like, I don't even need to talk to you. Like I'll cut you off right now because you're trying to steal my peace. Like there's nothing more important to me at this age. I proved everything I needed to prove. There's no ego left really to fuel anything, right? Like I'm okay. You know what I mean? Like I'm okay with myself. So there's nothing I could need to someone where I need to argue with them to try to prove my point, right? Like it's more of a live and let live kind of thing. Hey, I don't care if you don't agree with me, then just it's cool. If it bothers you that much, right? Because I've had people that even that they try to bully me. Oh, well, I want to talk about this. Well, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to talk about this, or I'm not in the mood to hear about politics. I'm not in the mood to hear about, this kind of stuff. So, and if people can't take that, like I have no problem cutting them off because like to me, peace is more important than anything, right? And I think that's ultimately the I mean, isn't I would think that's the goal of like, for the world, right? For us to reach a point of peace where people learn that to not be so forceful. I'm gonna play a video right here, right? It's just a little 1 minute video, but man, man, this was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful thing to witness. Obviously it went on longer, right? But this was the most, if you would have heard it in person, it was so magical. And I think of anyone, obviously different culture, different music, you know, I was passing by, right? And the sun setting, and they're over here playing these instruments, and it was just watch. I'm gonna play it so you could see, right? But I don't know what exactly their ethnicity was, right? So that's why I'm like, I was thinking like I don't want to say it wrong, right? At first I thought they were like, I don't know why I even thought they were. Is that how you say it? Sikh? I always say it wrong. I think it's Sikh, right? But I think I don't know if it's Hindu, Sikh, Let me see. Religion. Oh, religion. Okay, and then I'll end it with this, but I want to play this. But imagine living in a world where you don't respect someone for following their Sikh. I think it is Sikh. For because I know I made a video before, like a long time ago, and I said it wrong, right? And it bothered me so much. I was like, man, I just didn't want to make the video again, right? Let me see pronunciation. I know it's Sikh. Yeah, yeah, Sikh. Okay. I don't know if you heard my Google pronunciation thing I had to press. So I didn't know they were Sikh, Hindu, what, but they were playing like the music just, and that hit me like good, right? Like I was like, wow, this is so amazing to witness. Um, and that, right? Like if we could, like, there's so many beautiful things about so many cultures and ethnicities and all the things around the world, and the people that waste all that on war and greed and all that stuff is just sad, right? That when you could enrich, right? Rather than enrich our souls, enrich our human experience, people think that, the material stuff, right? Like, but it was so like, man, it was just such a perfect moment, right? So I get to experience these perfect moments like so many times, and it's just no money in the world could buy that at those moments, right? So I'm gonna play it here because it was just beautiful to be right there, and obviously music is my thing, so man, it was so good to hear in person, right? It was just amazing, right? I was like, man, I would love to go to a concert with that music playing, right? So I'm gonna play it here. On that note, I'm gonna end it. Hope you guys are good with the moon, right? And everything. I know I went on a little bit of I don't think it was a rant. It was just an explanation of why I'm very aware of why I hold back with so many things that I'm shown. But then I'm reminded, just like I said, right? I had that premonition, like such a weird, weird, weird premonition, and it still came true. And it was like in the vision, it was like it was happening to me. But then I'm watching a TV show and it's happening to this priest that has visions, right? So it was weird, like what was the whole message in that? It was a really strange message, and maybe there was like right because I did understand what was the context of what the TV show was going like happening, and the fact that I had that vision 7 days ago, and then 7 days later it happens. Such a weird, weird, weird experience, but yet they happen no matter what. Like when I'm shown things in some weird way or fashion, they come true no matter how crazy they are. Um, but it's very nice to see like okay, it was a TV show, or oh, it was a movie rather than then you know what I mean? Because that's good. That means like if I see end of the world stuff, like oh maybe it's just gonna be a movie I'm gonna see later. So there's no, but I know, see my head started tingling. I know when it's different, right? I know when it's something else. Oh, and you know what? It's funny. Last thing for real, and I'll play that video real quick. I was listening to Dolores Cannon, I believe, right? Someone had told me to listen to this book of hers called The Custodians, and there was so many confirmations there, right? I was like all these people, right? Because I don't think she experienced. I think she would just. I don't know that much about it, right? I just know that she was like, right? She did the hypnosis, and when she would put these people under hypnosis, they'll tell her all these things, and so many things I've already listened to, things that I've experienced, right? So just more confirmation about knowing things and just just keep standing in your truth even though people project. It doesn't matter, even spiritual people, no matter what. I get it all the time from regular people. I mean, everyday people that aren't into spiritual stuff to spiritual people. So that's why these masks have to come on, because it's like I just don't want to deal with the. I don't need to prove anybody nothing. I don't care. I don't have that much. It's not that important to me to argue with anybody, right? To me, it's all about having peace, right? I'd rather have peace than anything, right? So that's my thing. And I'll end it with that. Thank you. All right.
Life may move fast, or it may move slow. I met a silly man who said he make it slow. We look up out towards space, or even at the sky. One that gets away, but never look inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Life is a maze, but we'll figure this out. I mean, human beings, I ain't got no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever.